In less than 4 months, Filipinos will choose the next leaders of the country. And the stakes are high as the nation awaits directions in navigating through this overwhelming health crisis, among others.
With this pandemic, kasi kailangan all hands on deck na dapat tayo din. Dapat magtulungan na lahat. National government can't do everything on its own.
They will pitch their cause.
We need to deal it with an iron hand. I don't believe in dealing with drugs with the very soft approach. We need to make sure that we apprehend the bigger fish.
And why they deserve your vote.
Pwede nang mag-focus ulit tayo mga mamamayan at botante sa making a decision in May that will really move us towards a new and better normal.
Find out their plan of action for change. And as they chart the country's future, their political future is in your hands. Who are qualified? Who are worthy to serve in the 19th Congress? Watch them side by side here on CNN Philippines.
Welcome to the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. I'm David Santos. Over the next hour, we will get to know some of our senatorial aspirants. We'll be asking them the questions and issues that matter most to a number of Filipinos. This is the first in the series of forums CNN Philippines is hosting in the run-up to the elections on May 9. Now, over 60 senatorial candidates, only 12 will be elected. And we have 3 of these aspirants here tonight. We will introduce to you in alphabetical order. The 47-year-old re-electionist senator is running under the Nationalist People's Coalition. He finished his Bachelor of Science in Finance and Operations Management degree at Boston University in USA. He authored the Alternative Learning System Act, Murang Kuryente Act, and among others. Welcome, Senator Win Gatchalian.
Good evening, everyone.
Now, another senatorial re-electionist is running under the political party Akbayan. The 50-year-old senator is a graduate of Ateneo de Manila University with a bachelor's degree in social sciences. She authored Safe Spaces Act, Mental Health Act, among others. Welcome, Senator Risa Hontiveros.
Salamat, Sir David. I'm actually 55. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Migz, magandang gabi, Sen. Sherwin.
And last but not the least, the 52-year-old incumbent senator is an independent candidate. He finished his master's in environment and natural resources management at the UP Open University. He authored the Bangsamoro Organic Law, Renewable Energy Act, among others. Let's all welcome Senator Migz Zubiri.
Yes, magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Dave, to my other colleagues, good evening. It's nice to be with everyone. And I have to say, Ma'am Risa looks like she's only 35.
Okay. Now, to make sure everyone is safe from COVID-19, they will be joining us via Zoom. And I would like to remind everyone that today is not a debate, as well as the next forums we'll be hosting every Sunday. This program is about getting to know your aspirants better, their platforms, their principles, stand on issues to help you decide for the May 9 elections. Now, we have compiled questions. Each of you will be given a time limit for each to answer. And when you hear this sound, it means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up your answer. Now, we are live on free-to-air Channel 9 and on cable, as well as on Facebook at CNN Philippines. Join the conversation online using hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. Now, nearly 2 years and counting, our lives have turned upside down in this pandemic. Just when it seemed that the country was out of the woods as cases substantially dropped in December, the nation is again grappling with an even highly infectious COVID-19 variant that's crippling healthcare systems worldwide. There has been a dramatic spike in COVID-19 cases, topping 39,000 in a single day. And things may get worse before they get better again. Our first question for tonight, in your view, what is a sustainable approach, not a stopgap solution, to the pandemic response? You have 2 minutes each to answer this question. Let's begin with you with Senator Risa Hontiveros. Senator Risa?
Salamat, Sir David. Palagay ko yung Universal Healthcare Law na isa ako sa naging author para maipasa gives us the template to strategically strengthen our public health system and make us COVID or any other pandemic ready into the future. Ito po ay template base sa 6 na pillars ng World Health Organization, and actually yung pandemya ngayon is a litmus test to implement this universal healthcare system. Sa konteksto ng pag-iimplementa natin ng kompleto at magaling ng UHC law, Sir David, mas nagiging epektibo at meaningful yung mga COVID-specific responses natin. Sa konteksto ng UHC law, kailangan i-sustain natin ang testing. As of today, we're only up to about 81,000 tests a day. Pangatlong taon na po ito na nananawagan ako sa IATF to raise their testing capacity to 150,000 tests a day. Within the UHC law, i-sustain natin ang contact tracing. Wag na wag po i-demote ito ng Department of Health. I-sustain ng DOH ang quarantine at saka treatment. At yung fifth and last but not the least na elemento ng COVID response package, i-sustain at pataasin pa ng DOH ang vaccination at booster rollout campaign. Sa kontekstong ganito, if we implement this 5-point COVID package properly, completely, and well, in fact, hindi lang natin pagagalingin ang kalusugan ng ating mga mamamayan moving into a new and better health normal, pero magiging parte na rin ng new and better normal na iyon ang mas matatag, mas malakas, mas pandemic ready na public health system para sa ating mga mamamayan. Healthy buhay talaga bukod sa healthy hanap buhay, Sir David.
Senator Risa highlighting there yung universal health law. Let's go to Senator Win. The same question. What is a sustainable approach for you, not a stopgap solution to the pandemic response? Your time starts now.
Thank you, David. I'll divide it into two categories. Short term, we have to raise our vaccination rate from 50% to 70%. We're now standing at 50% only. And with the experience with Omicron, vaccines work. The reason why we're not seeing an increase in occupancy in our in our hospitals is because vaccinated na tayo dito sa Metro Manila, but we're still nationwide at 50%, so we have to raise it to 70%. The other short-term solution is we have to start vaccinating our kids age 5 to 11. This is important in order for us to return to face-to-face classes and in order to build confidence also from our parents. In the long term, we've seen that LGUs play a very important role in fighting COVID. We cannot fight COVID without the capacity of LGUs. So importante in LGUs natin, makapacitate natin yan, not only in delivering basic services, but also fighting COVID. Put up more labs, put up more, increase their testing capacities. And another one is to establish a virology center. Before, there was only RITM in terms of research, but now this type of pandemic can be a regular occurrence. So we need to capacitate our country in terms of research.
Let's go to Senator Migz. The same question, Senator Migz. What is a sustainable approach for you, not just a stopgap solution to this pandemic response?
Well, I don't want to sound like a parrot or an echo of my colleagues, but it's what they had said is exactly on point. Basically, for me, it's three. It's you have to do three modes of action: prevention, of course, cure, and sustainability. Yung sa prevention, I'd like to state that look at Novak Djokovic. Di ba, napakahitindi ng batas doon sa Australia where they didn't allow him to come in because he was unvaccinated. That's the law. The law may be harsh, but no matter you're the #1 tennis player, wala ka talagang magagawa. Kailangan mo sundan yung batas, which brings me to the point on prevention. Kailangan natin palakasin at siguro dagdagan, ngipin ang ating vaccination, yung ating law on procedures on surveillance and notifiable diseases and epidemics. So what I propose under Senate Bill number 2470, 2470, is basically to add a higher penalty for those who are, of course, like what the Poblacion girl did, very famous Poblacion girl. Pag ikaw po ay nag-skip ng quarantine, ikaw po ay nandaya sa vaccination card, ikaw po ay nagsinungaling, ay dapat mas mataas ang parusa sa iyo, and we put here a maximum of 1 million peso penalty both for the person who evaded the quarantine procedures, including the establishment that allowed this to happen. So basically yun. And of course 1 to 6 years jail term kasi ngayon napaka light ng penalty. So prevention yan, of course cure. Yung ating hospitals, kailangan natin ayusin ang lahat ng ating mga hospital. We have to add more respirators from Apari to Tawi-Tawi. Kailangan pagandahin natin yung mga hospital natin para kung matamaan man sila ng Omicron at siya medyo more than severe, or if it's mild or medium or severe, the hospital system can take care of them. And finally, of course, sustainability. Tama sinabi na aking mga kasamaan. We have to continue to vaccinate. Okay. From 5 years old to adults na. Dapat dagdagan sa probinsya, like us sa Bukidnon and Mindanao, napakababa ng vaccination rate. Kailangan dagdagan po yan.
Dagan salamat, Senator. We'll be proceeding to our next question. With the resources sorely lacking to support the healthcare system and the needs of the people, it doesn't help that the controversies hound COVID-19 response funds. Let me just reiterate to our participants tonight that you are on the time limit, so pasensya na if we are from time to time we had to cut you short. But in fact, the government auditors flag over 67 billion pesos worth of spending of the health department alone. Senators like you took the cue and launched a probe on a controversial medical supplier, but not without strong words from President Duterte himself criticizing the investigation. In the meantime, our healthcare workers are again facing the strain of COVID-19 cases rising by the thousands daily and seeking help from the government. Our question now, how can there be more transparency and accountability in the handling of COVID-19 funds in an emergency situation? Again, let me remind you, you are under a time limit. Let's begin with Senator Zubiri. You answered last in the first question. Let's begin with you.
First of all, kailangan natin dagdagan ang ating mga allowances for nurses, for our frontline workers, na alam mo, medyo bitin ang pagbigay natin itong nakaraang taon. Under the new Appropriations Act that we just approved, the General Appropriations Act, we added 51 billion for frontline workers in terms of allowances. I believe it is 3,000 for low-risk frontline workers. We also added 6,000 pesos for medium-risk frontline workers and 9,000 pesos for high-risk frontline workers. Additional over and above allowance po ito, David, no, sa ating mga kababayan. Dinagdag po natin yan. Wala po yan sa GAA, wala po yan sa NEP pagpasok sa Kongreso. At kami po sa Senado ang nagdagdag niyan. That's 51 billion pesos. Now, accountability is important there. You've heard me many times saying this. There is a special place in hell for people who take advantage of the misery of others, yung kinikitaan pa nila, yung kahirapan natin mga kababayan. Kaya ako ay sumasang-ayon, dapat maglagay po tayo. Unang-una siguro tanggalin na po natin itong mga questionabling agencies na ito, yung PITC, yung PSDBM, kung saan nagkakaroon po ng dictatorial rule, more or less, kasi maliit lang na opisina, handling billions and billions and billions of funds. Hindi natin alam kung tama ba ang paggamit nitong pondong ito.
Salamat, Senator Zubiri. Let's go now to Senator Win. Again, sorry, we have to remind that you are under time pressure. May 90 minutes to answer for each of the questions. Senator, rather 90 seconds pala. Senator Win, balikan ko po kayo. Para sa inyo, how can we be more transparent and magkaroon ng accountability in the handling of COVID-19 funds in an emergency situation like we are in now?
First of all, David, hearing corruption while we're struggling to fight COVID is really discouraging. Lahat tayo nadidismaya dyan. Nakita natin how our friends and relatives have been affected by COVID. Marami tayong mga kaibigang namatay. Marami tayong mga kagbayan na walan ng trabaho at nagutom. Pero sa kabila nito, nakita rin natin may mga kumpanya at personalidad na ng abuso, no? At kinurap itong pondo para sa COVID. I have a similar answer to Senator Zubiri in terms of institutional change. First, we have to abolish PITC and PSDBM. These two agencies have been used to circumvent spending, making themselves look efficient. And then second, these agencies have been used to centralize billions and billions, hundreds of billions of pesos in terms of purchasing. Just imagine centralized purchasing to one person. The temptation is heavy, the temptation is there, and we have to abolish these two agencies. I believe in decentralizing purchasing to the agencies. Mas alam ng mga agencies kung anong bibili nila. So institutional change is one. And then number two, let's publish everything through the website, no? Making everyone know where the public funds are going.
Senator Risa, same question. How can there be more transparency and accountability in the handling of COVID-19 funds?
Yes, Sir Dave. Unang-una na kaming lahat ng mga sangay ng gobyerno ay dapat patuloy na respetuhin at protektahan yung mandato ng mga independent constitutional bodies tulad ng Commission on Audit na unang nakapansin nga dun sa questionabling paglipat ng Department of Health ng 42 billion pesos dun sa isa sa mga ahensyang binanggit ni Sen. Sherwin, no? Yung PSDBM. Kailangan maglinis din, clean up their act ang Department of Health. Tigilin na yung ganyang mga questionabling mga practices at baka din yung ibang mga ahensya tulad ng DOTR, Philippine National Railways, na lumabas sa aming Blue Ribbon Committee investigation na tulad ng DOH bumili ng mga overpriced pandemic supplies sa Pharmally. Yung mga ahensya tulad ng Pharmally at pati ng SUZA, Construction and Machinery Group, dapat ay sumunod din sa ating mga tax laws at hindi maging tax evaders. Bigyan natin ng suporta, prioridad yung mga Pilipinong kumpanya at mga Pilipinong manggagawa na may track record, may kakayahan at dihamak na mas mura, mas affordable na mga pandemic supplies moving forward. At kami naman po sa Senado, sa Blue Ribbon Committee at lahat ng aming mga komite ay patuloy na i-exercise ang aming oversight function. Malapit na pong ilabas ang committee report, sabi ni Chair Sendic, na mayroong mga matitibay na findings at rekomendasyon in aid of legislation.
Maraming salamat, Senators. Now, before we go on a break, here's a question answerable by a yes or a no. No explanations needed. Let's just point that out. No, you have two signboards. All you need to do is use the green one if you agree, or the red signboard if you don't. Now, government data show that as of January 1, 2022, more than 108 million doses of vaccines have been administered in the country. But many Filipinos still refuse to be vaccinated. In an SWS survey last November, although vaccine confidence in the country improved and went up by 64%, the rest remain hesitant. While the government has not required every Filipino to get inoculated, the debate to mandate vaccination remains to this day. Now, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez has said hesitancy and brand preference are hounding vaccination efforts. Here is your question, Senators. Are you in favor of mandatory vaccination to reach herd immunity? Let me see your answers. Okay, Senator Win? Okay, we have 2 no answers and 1 yes. Thank you very much, Senators. Now, this is a CNN Philippines special presentation. We'll get to know more about our senatorial aspirants after this break. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back to a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm David Santos. This is the first in a series of senatorial forums as we count down the months and days leading to the May 9th general election. Now, joining us are three of our senatorial re-electionists, Senator Migz Zubiri, Senator Win Gatchalian, and Senator Risa Hontiveros. They will respond to questions on issues that matter to most of us Filipinos. Now, before moving on to the next question, let's read some of your comments online. Netizen Jimenez Ariel says, candidates at this point will say whatever the people want to hear. I will look at their track record instead. Now, another netizen, Chloe Go, sabi niya, stop making laws, rather focus on implementing them. Isa pa, Gregorio Narte, sabi naman niya, magtrabaho, mag-isip kung paano gumaan ang buhay ng mamamayang Pilipino, huwag tutulog-tulog. Winston Nicolas, sabi naman niya, revisit all the laws and repeal those that are not important and significant. Tira Flores, sabi naman niya, pass the anti-EPAL bill prohibiting government officials in posting their pictures and names with government projects. And finally, si Nancy Ignacio, ang sabi niya, sasabihin ko sa kanila na huwag puro bangayan ng bangayan ang gagawin sa Senado, magkasundo-sundo sa ikagaganda ng bansa at mamamayan, hindi kontrahan ng kontrahan. Again, we are not having a debate today. This forum will allow the public to know our candidates more. Now, each one will answer a question. We'll be giving you giving you time limit for each answer. When you hear this sound, it means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up your answer. Now, to our audience, feel free to join the conversation online using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. Now, earlier, before going to the break, we asked our senatorial aspirants their opinions on pandemic response and funding and mandatory vaccination. Now, moving on to another hot topic, corruption. The Office of the Ombudsman restricted access to the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALNs, of public officials. Ombudsman Samuel Martires says this is to protect them from, quote, political enemies weaponizing the SALN. Now, to our guests tonight, here's the question. How can the public have easy access to the SALN of the two highest officials of the land while addressing the Ombudsman's concerns? You each have 2 minutes to answer. Let's hear first from Senator Win Gatchalian. Go ahead, Senator.
Well, for the record, David, that every time I get a request to release my SALN, I always give out my SALN. And I believe that SALN is one of the pillars for transparency. And one of the ways to enhance transparency in our country is to even post the SALN in our websites. I believe SALN is a way for the public to gain confidence to their public servants. No? Kung alam nila yung net worth ng public servants nila at transparent, then more the confidence will go up to the public servants. And there are ways to protect the public servants. Number one is we can file cases. We can make sure that those who will weaponize SALN and who will use it to harass, we can protect ourselves by filing cases against these scrupulous people.
Senator Migz, let's go to you. The same question. Paano nga na ang public magkakaroon ng easy access to the SALN of the two highest officials of the land while addressing yung concern ng Ombudsman?
Well, freedom of information. No? I've been a supporter of freedom of information since day one. Pinasa po natin yan when I was majority floor leader in the 17th Congress. And siyempre, katulad ng sinabi ni Senator Win sa aming opisina, pag hinihingi din po yung salin, we give our salins. We never hide the salin of my office. I guess, ang importante dyan, transparency. Siguro kailangan na natin ipasa talaga yung FOI, Freedom of Information Bill, although ginawa na po yan under executive order. But the ombudsman, as mentioned earlier, ginawa nila medyo mas stricter kasi nawe-weaponize. Dahil ang sabi ng ombudsman, and I'm just giving a little background when I don't have much time, ang sabi kasi ng ombudsman, a number of their cases, napakaraming cases which involve councilors, mayors, local government officials, ay yung pagkukulang nilang ilagay, for example, konting nabili nila, painting or baril or ano, hindi nalagay sa salin, ginagawa na po yan as a violation of their salin, thus they file cases against them. Kaya napakarami daw kaso itong mga local officials sa Office of the Ombudsman when it comes to salin. Yung mga kalaban nila, yan ang ginagawa. Talaga binubusisi, inaanapan ng butas, tapos papailan ng kaso. Napakahirap to be honest, Dave, to be able to monitor everything that you buy, everything that you do throughout the year. Of course, you must be as transparent as possible, pero talagang meron minsan talagang hindi nakikita at nalulusutan at kapapailan ng kaso. So that is what they mean by weaponizing the salin. But I'm all for it. Let us pass the Freedom of Information Bill and make it mandatory for everyone, including the president, to release their statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth.
Maraming salamat, Senator Migz. Let's go to you, Senator Risa. What are your thoughts about, having the public having easy access to the salin of the two highest officials of the land while addressing the concerns of the Office of the Ombudsman?
Well, Sir David, tulad ng sinabi ni Migz, naniniwala ako na itong madaling access ng publiko sa aming lahat ng mga salin na nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno ay bahagi lang talaga ng pagrespeto natin sa prinsipyo ng freedom of information. Importante may access ang publiko sa mga salin namin dahil tulad ng ginagawa ni Migz at ni Sen. Sherwin, taon-taon ay dapat din akong nagpa-file ng aking salin. At bakit importante itong malaman ng ating mga kababayan sa aming trabaho sa gobyerno? Alam dapat nila ang aming assets para alam nilang walang conflict of interest sa aming mga programang sinusulong o batas na pinapasa o mga desisyong ginagawa sa korte, depende kung saang sangay ng gobyerno kami nagtatrabaho. Importanteng malaman nila ang aming mga liabilities para alam nilang hindi kami limitado o napipilayan sa aming trabaho ng ganitong mga liabilities at net worth. Importante ding malaman nila para alam nila kung kaming mga nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno ay sa abot ng aming makakaya ay ginagawa yung simpleng pamumuhay at puspusang pagkikibaka o pagtatrabaho na prinsipyo naming mga aktivista at prinsipyo din ng marami sa aming mga politiko at nasa gobyerno. Yung concerns ni Ombudsman, kinikilala ko rin naman. Bagamat tingin ko naman ay kaming mga nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno ay higit na may proteksyon laban sa anumang weaponization. At siguro minority yung nagwe-weaponize ng mga dokumento tulad ng salin at higit ang benepisyo sa publiko kapag sila ay may madaling access sa aming mga salin para makalahok din sila sa pagsisiguro ng transparency and accountability at mabuting paggogobyerno tulad ng aming din isinusulong.
Thank you for your responses, Senators Risa, Migz, and Senator Win. Now, moving on to our next question. Enacted in 1991, the Anti-plunder law only saw 14 cases handled by the Anti-graft Court Sandigan Bayan. High-profile cases include the multi-billion peso pork barrel scam. There's also the PCSO or Sweepstakes Intelligence Fund scam involving a former president. Now, half of the other cases are still pending. Now, as there have been no convictions of so-called big fish for plunder, how can you make sure that the law will have more teeth to go after them? Again, you have 90 seconds to answer. Let's begin. Balik tayo kay Senator Risa. Let's begin with you.
Salamat, Sir David. Siguro para sa paghanap ng solusyon dyan. Bukod sa, syempre, tungkulin naman namin sa Kongreso kasamang Senado mag-review kung mahusay ba ang mga kasalukuyang batas, dapat ba naming amyendahan ito, i-repeal at palitan ng bago. Tingin ko maganda, worthwhile, balikan yung mga rekomendasyon ng isang grupo na about a decade ago, ang pangalan nila ay Bantay Katarungan, and nagkakataon si Sen Kiko ang isa sa nagbuo at namuno nito. Meron silang mga rekomendasyon sa iba't ibang sangay o pillar ng ating criminal justice system. At kung di ako nagkakamali, kasabay dyan yung Sandigan Bayan at syempre kasabay dyan yung legislation na may kinalaman sa pagtukoy at pagpaparusa sa plunder, pangdarambong. Yun ay isang usapin na laging lumilitaw kapag iniimbestiga namin sa Senado ang anumang mga issue ng graft and corruption, paglabag sa transparency and accountability sa paggastos ng government o public funds. Dahil nga galing ito sa buwis ng mga working people at sa mahabang kasaysayan ng Pilipinas, maya't maya ay lumalabas yung issue yan, gaya ng mga kaso, halimbawa ng kaso na sinabi mo, Sir David. So yes, it is always timely at never na walang kuwenta ang pag-revisit ng batas na ito.
Senator Migz, sa'yo naman, no convictions of the so-called big fish for plunder. Paano nyo masisiguro na the law will have more teeth to go after them?
Well, unang-una, siguro, pakinggan natin yung sinabi ng isang texter kanina. Let us implement the law. Stop making new laws now, implement the law. I think we just have to implement the law to a T. What we have to do, siguro, kailangan natin i-strengthen yung ombudsman, Office of the Ombudsman. Dagdagan ang kanilang prosecutors, magagaling na abogado, yung kanilang, of course, investigation division, paglilitis at pagkukuha ng ebidensya, kailangan palakasin natin yan. Kasi due process yan. The question is very, it's complex because syempre nandyan yung Sandigan Bayan, the ombudsman, yung proseso po. Yung ombudsman, kailangan ipakita ang kaso sa ating Sandigan Bayan, and the Sandigan Bayan has to decide because it is a what you call a heinous crime. So therefore, it has to be the truth, but nothing but the truth. Yung kailangan talaga ilabas yung katotohanan and beyond reasonable doubt yung kanilang decision dyan. So we have to strengthen the Office of the Ombudsman para yung mga kaso airtight at hindi makakalusot at hindi po sila magbibigay ng mga excuses o mga mahihinang ebidensya. Yan ang dapat nating gawin.
Senator Win, the same question. As there have been no convictions of the so-called big fish for plunder, how can you make sure that the law, if you are given a new mandate, the law will have more teeth to go after them?
David, the Ombudsman and Sandigan are part of a different branch of government compared to the Senate and Congress. We're in the legislative branch, they're in the judiciary and a constitutional body. Where we intersect is actually when the budget of these offices are being discussed. And I completely agree with Senator Migz in terms of giving more support by capacitating the ombudsman. And the only way to do this is to give them more budget, to make sure that they're supported with enough funds, to make sure that enough funds are channeled to offices, to more lawyers, to more investigators. The same with Sandigan. We can increase the number of personnel that will help the justices, as well as increase the number of Sandigan courthouses. This way, we can dispense justice very quickly, and at the same time, we can help the justices also with their research. At the end of the day, it's about evidence. And the more funds that we give them, the more capacity that they can build, and the stronger evidence that they can gather against the perpetrator.
Thank you for your responses, Senators. Now, we will be taking a short break, but before that, here's another question answerable by yes or no. Again, you don't need to provide an explanation. You just need to raise the green signboard if your answer is yes, or the red signboard if your answer is no. Now, Senator Ping Lacson filed a bill seeking to lift bank secrecy protection for all government officials and workers as a tool for transparency and against corruption. Now, here is our question. Are you willing to sign bank document waivers within the first 100 days in office? Yes or no? Okay, we are seeing all the answers in the affirmative. Maraming salamat, Senators. Now, join the conversation online by using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. Stay with CNN Philippines. Welcome back to CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. We are joined by three senatorial aspirants, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Risa Hontiveros, and Senator Migz Zubiri. Again, this is not a debate. The purpose of this forum is for the voters to get to know you well. Now, moving on to our next question, we'll be giving you, again, 2 minutes to answer. When you hear the sound, it means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up. Now, in an interview with CNN Philippines, an analyst claims that areas ruled by some political dynasties often suffer from underdevelopment and poverty. Ronald Mendoza of the Ateneo School of Government says at one point up to 70% of lawmakers came from families who have been in power for the longest time. And that this has somewhat hindered progress, especially in the provinces. Now, some say the issue stems from the failure of Congress to come up with a working definition of a political dynasty. Your question is, will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have long been prohibited under our Constitution? Senator Win Gatchalian, 2 minutes for your answer.
Thank you, David. The latest SK reform bill has an anti-dynasty provision there, and that bill is a bill that I supported, including the anti-dynasty provision in that bill. And moving forward, I truly believe that we need to come up with a definition for anti-dynasties. Because it's already evident. The evidence points out that dynasties can deter growth in a particular area, can deter development in a particular area, and there's no robust governance that happens in that area.
Pero siguro quickly lang, Senator, we have the Gatchalians, your family in Valenzuela, and anong response niyo siguro dito kung may magtatanong pong ganyan?
Well, definitely, as of this point, there's no law that prohibits that. There's also a pros and cons when it comes to an anti-dynasty provision. Number one, the pro for an anti-dynasty provision is you prevent same families ruling and deterring the growth of a particular area. On the downside is you also prevent talent from coming in, not because they have the same surname. It doesn't mean that they have bad intentions or new talent. They have bad intention or they're not capable in governing the locality. So there's definitely a downside also to an anti-dynasty provision. But looking at the country as a whole, and I believe that in some parts of our area, the mentality there is feudalistic. I think as a whole, I will support a anti-dynasty law.
Let's go to Senator Migz, the same question. Senator Migz, just to add to it, your father, your family is a political clan from Bukidnon in the Caraga region. Will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have been long been prohibited under our Constitution?
Correction, Dave. It's Northern Mindanao. We're part of Region 10. Yeah, sorry. But definitely I will. Sinabi ko na to sa isang forum. Sinabi ko na I will support an anti-dynasty law. Actually, ginawa ko na po ito, Dave. Nung pinasa po namin yung Bangsamoro Organic Law, yung creation of the BARM, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. When you elect members of the parliament, meron po silang members that are sectorally represented. In other words, party list system. Ginawa po namin, doon sa party list, hindi po pwede ay meron silang kamag-anak that will represent the members of parliament elected by districts. So ginawa po namin yan, similar to what Senator Gatchalian did in the SK law sa Sangguniang Kabataan. So I'm in favor of that. As a matter of fact, I support the version na ipinasa po dati ifinail po ng ating kaibigan po namin mga seatmates ay si Senator J.V. Ejercito. He tried to pass an anti-dynasty bill kung saan limited lang po to one member that is in the executive position, elected as an executive, and one member elected as national post. So, ang version na yan ay, let's say kung may senador na isa, pwede lang po sa locality kung saan po sila galing, pwedeng may mayor, pwedeng may governor. Bali, dalawa lang ang limitado. Hindi naman siguro pwede na iisa lang ang tumakbo because in fairness, there are many qualified members of the family, whoever they may be, that are also willing to serve. So kami naman sa version namin ni Senator JV, which I support, dalawa po ang maiiwan. Isang national at isang local. And I think that is an acceptable alternative.
Senator Risa, your thoughts. Will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have long been prohibited under our Constitution?
Yes, Sir Dave. Gaya ng laging ginagawa ng Akabayan Party sa House at gaya ng ginawa ko na rin dito sa Senado, I will again, given the chance, support a bill banning political dynasties. Unang-una dahil utos ito ng ating konstitusyon. Pangalawa, masaya ako na binanggit ni Sen. Sherwin na dun mismo sa SK Reform and Empowerment Bill na chinampion ng Akabayan Youth at ng iba pang mga youth and students movements, nandun yung isang pwedeng gumabay sa atin na anti-dynasty provision. Sinubukan nitong matuto dun sa turo ni Professor Mendoza tungkol sa fat and thin dynasties. Binigyan ng definisyon ang political dynasty in terms of degree of consanguinity and affinity. At maganda kasi may elemento ng time frame. Sinasabi dun sa anti-dynasty provision ng SK Reform and Empowerment Law na sa susunod na 3 eleksyon para sa SK pagkatapos maipasa yung batas, wala munang papayagang tumakbo para sa SK officers na galing sa dynasties. At pagkatapos ng dekadang iyon, kung saan mas na-level yung playing field, mas may pagkakataong lumitaw yung mga leader kabataan natin mula sa mga non-dynasties, ay bubuksan na muli ang mas level na playing field sa lahat, pati nga sa mga kabataan galing sa dynasties. At tungkol din dyan, Sir Dave, matutunan din natin mula sa ibang mga bansa, halimbawa yung mga mas developed na demokrasya, no, na sila, meron din silang dynasties, pero dahil mas developed yung political system natin, mas mature yung political party system nila, mas marami silang totoong mga partido, ay may checks and balances na magagamit at exercise ng mga mamamayan vis-a-vis yung dynasties.
Maraming salamat mga senators. Now, this is a CNN Philippines special presentation. You can join our conversation online by using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. We'll be taking a short break. Stay with CNN Philippines. Welcome back to CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. We are joined by 3 senatorial aspirants, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Risa Hontiveros, and Senator Migz Zubiri. Again, this is not a debate. The purpose of this forum is for the voters to get to know you well. Now, moving on to our next question, we'll be giving you, again, 2 minutes to answer. When you hear the sound, it means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up. Now, in an interview with CNN Philippines, an analyst claims that areas ruled by some political dynasties often suffer from underdevelopment and poverty. Ronald Mendoza of the Ateneo School of Government says at one point, up to 70% of lawmakers came from families who have been in power for the longest time. and that this has somewhat hindered progress, especially in the provinces. Now, some say the issue stems from the failure of Congress to come up with a working definition of a political dynasty. Your question is, will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have long been prohibited under our Constitution? Senator Win Gatchalian, 2 minutes for your answer.
Thank you, David. The latest SK reform bill has an anti-dynasty provision there. And that bill is a bill that I supported, including the anti-dynasty provision in that bill. And moving forward, I truly believe that we need to come up with a definition for anti-dynasties. Because it's already evident. The evidence points out that dynasties can deter growth in a particular area, can deter development in a particular area, and there's no robust governance that happens in that area.
Pero siguro quickly lang, Senator, we have the Gatchalians, your family in Valenzuela. And anong response nyo siguro dito kung may magtatanong pong ganyan?
Well, definitely, as of this point, there's no law that prohibits that. There's also a pros and cons when it comes to an anti-dynasty provision. Number one, the pro for an anti-dynasty provision is you prevent same families ruling and deterring the growth of a particular area. On the downside is you also prevent talent from coming in, not because they have the same surname. It doesn't mean that they have bad intentions or new talent. They have bad intention or they're not capable in governing the locality. So there's definitely a downside also to an anti-dynasty provision. But looking at the country as a whole, and I believe that in some parts of our area, the mentality there is feudalistic. I think as a whole, I will support an anti-dynasty law.
Let's go to Senator Migz, the same question. Senator Migz, just to add to it, your father, your family is a political clan from Bukidnon in the Caraga region. Will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have been long been prohibited under our Constitution?
Correction, Dave. It's Northern Mindanao. We're part of Region 10. Yeah, sorry. But definitely I will. Sinabi ko na to sa isang forum. Sinabi ko na I will support an anti-dynasty law. Actually, ginawa ko na po ito, Dave. Nung ipinasa po namin yung Bangsamoro Organic Law, yung creation of the BARM, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. When you elect members of the parliament, meron po silang members that are sectorally represented. In other words, party list system. Ginawa po namin, doon sa party list, hindi po pwede ay meron silang kamag-anak that will represent the members of parliament elected by districts. So ginawa po namin yan, similar to what Senator Gatchalian did in the SK law sa Sangguniang Kabataan. So I'm in favor of that. As a matter of fact, I support the version na ipinasa po dati ifinail po ng ating kaibigan po namin mga seatmates ay si Senator J.V. Ejercito. He tried to pass an anti-dynasty bill kung saan limited lang po to one member that is in the executive position, elected as an executive, and one member elected as national post. So, ang version na yan ay, let's say kung may senador na isa, pwede lang po sa locality kung saan po sila galing, pwedeng may mayor, pwedeng may governor. Bali, dalawa lang ang limitado. Di naman siguro pwede na iisa lang ang tumakbo because in fairness, there are many qualified members of the family, whoever they may be, that are also willing to serve. So kami naman sa version namin ni Senator JV, which I support, dalawa po ang maiiwan. Isang national at isang local. And I think that is an acceptable alternative.
Senator Risa, your thoughts. Will you support a bill banning political dynasties which have long been prohibited under our Constitution?
Yes, Sir Dave. Gaya ng laging ginagawa ng Akbayan Party sa House at gaya ng ginawa ko na rin dito sa Senado, I will again, given the chance, support a bill banning political dynasties. Unang-una dahil utos ito ng ating konstitusyon. Pangalawa, masaya ako na binanggit ni Sen. Sherwin na dun mismo sa SK Reform and Empowerment Bill na chinampion ng Akbayan Youth at ng iba pang mga youth and students movements, nandun yung isang pwedeng gumabay sa atin na anti-dynasty provision. Sinubukan nitong matuto dun sa turo ni Professor Mendoza tungkol sa fat and thin dynasties. Binigyan ng definition ang political dynasty in terms of degree of consanguinity and affinity. At maganda kasi may elemento ng time frame. Sinasabi dun sa anti-dynasty provision ng SK Reform and Empowerment Law na sa susunod na 3 eleksyon para sa SK pagkatapos maipasa yung batas, wala munang papayagang tumakbo para sa SK officers na galing sa dynasties. At pagkatapos ng dekadang iyon, kung saan mas na-level yung playing field, mas may pagkakataong lumitaw yung mga leader kabataan natin mula sa mga non-dynasties, ay bubuksan na muli ang mas level na playing field sa lahat, pati nga sa mga kabataan galing sa dynasties. At tungkol din dyan, Sir Dave, matutunan din natin mula sa ibang mga bansa, halimbawa yung mga mas developed na demokrasya, no, na sila, meron din silang dynasties, pero dahil mas developed yung political system natin, mas mature yung political party system nila, mas marami silang totoong mga partido, ay may checks and balances na magagamit at exercise ng mga mamamayan vis-a-vis yung dynasties.
Maraming salamat mga senators. Now, this is a CNN Philippines special presentation. You can join our conversation online by using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. We'll be taking a short break. Stay with CNN Philippines. Welcome back. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. This is the first in a series of forums where we get to know our senatorial aspirants. Our guests, Senators Win Gatchalian, Risa Hontiveros, and Migz Zubiri, answered questions on pandemic response, corruption, politics, and the economy. But right now, they will be the one asking the questions to their fellow aspirants. Each of you will be given 2 minutes to answer. Now, we will begin with Senator Migz Zubiri. I will be drawing the name of the person who will be asking your question. It will be, rather to answer your question. Ang sasagot po ay si Senator Risa Hontiveros. Go ahead, Senator Migz.
To my fellow member of the Senate and one of the hardworking members of our Senate, Tuad, I'd like to ask, as chairperson of your Committee on Women, Children, and Family Relations and Gender Equality, what do you think has been the committee's greatest achievement so far?
Salamat kaayo, Majong Migz. I guess top of mind, greatest achievements ng Senate Committee on Women so far, unang-una na yung expanded maternity leave law. Isa sa mga tawag nyo rin mismo, Majo, isa sa mga happy laws na naipasa natin sa 18th Congress Senate. Hanggang ngayon, maraming mga kapwa-babae ko, kabaro ng mga nanay, pati yung mga partners o asawa nilang mga tatay, nagme-message pa rin kung paano nila napakinabangan yung 105, hindi na lang 60 days maternity leave. So sobrang happy po yun. Pangalawa, Majo, I would say, yung pastilla scam investigation. Nagsimula sa POGO-related prostitution, naging investigasyon sa illegal recruitment at detention, at ito na nga, talagang sumabog yung issue ng pastilla scam, umabot pa sa human trafficking. So yung malapit na naming ilabas na committee report ng Senate Committee on Women ay talagang umaasa akong mas magbibigay ng proteksyon hindi lamang sa ating national borders, bagamat yun din at napaka-importante, pero dagdag na proteksyon sa ating mga kababaihan at kabataan moving forward sa new and better economic normal. At siguro pangatlo, isa sa mga pending na batas na isinusulong ng aming komite, yung tungkol sa expanded din na solo parents welfare bill. Napakalapit sa puso ko, Madjo, isa sa mga advocacy ang pinapersonal ko dahil nga malaking parte ng identity ko yung pagiging babae, anak, magulang, no, at solo parent. Kapag maipasa po ito ay sana talaga mas mapakinabangan ng mga kapwa ko solo parent at aming mga anak. Daghang salamat, Madjo.
Maraming salamat, Senator Migz and Senator Migz and Senator Risa. Now, Senator Risa, kayo naman po ang magtatanong ngayon. Ang sasagot ng inyong tanong ay si Senator Win Gatchalian.
Senator Win, magandang gabi. Ang tanong ko po sa iyo ay pagdating ng araw na magkikwento ka sa magiging asawa mo at mga anak, alin sa mga batas na naipasa mo na or malapit mo nang ipasa itong 18th Congress ang pinaka ipagmamalaki mo at ibibida mo sa kanila at bakit?
Thank you, Senator Risa. Siguro sa maraming batas na naipasa natin at naitulak natin, for me the most important and relevant and the law that I'm very proud of is the free higher education law. Nung congressman ako, final natin to in 2016 at nakita ho natin kung gaano kahalaga sa isang pamilya na makapagtapos sa kolehiyo yung kanilang mga anak. So nagpapasalamat ako of course sa ating mga kasamahan, sa iyo, Senator Risa, kay Senator Migz at sa lahat ng mga senator dahil naipasa natin to nung 17th Congress at ngayon ganap na batas na. So there are about 2 million students who are benefiting from this law and there are now more than 2 million students who are graduating because of this law and more. No? Kaya napakalaking bagay ito, hindi lang para sa pamilyang Pilipino, para sa ating bansa dahil alam naman natin kung gaano kahalaga ang college degree ngayon sa buhay ng isang tao.
At syempre para sa panghuli naman, kayo po, Senator Win, ay magtatanong kay Senator Migz.
Gusto ko sana pahirapan tong kumpare ko na ito eh. But my question is, out of all your authored bills that became laws, which legislation are you the most proud of?
Senator Migz?
Oops.
Nakuha niyo yung tanong, Senator Migz. Pinaka-importanteng the legislation you're most proud of.
Can you hear me, everyone? Parang nasa Mindanao kasi ako, kaya medyo
nag-freeze lang, sir. But did you get a question of Senator Win?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, major bills that I'm proud of. Actually, marami, and I thank Senator Sherwin for that, and he's helped me with many of these bills. Marami naman, napakahirap to round it off to a single measure. I would say yung pinakamahirap na batas na ispinonsoran ko, pinaglaban ko, ang Bangsamoro Organic Law, dahil nagbigay po ng daan sa kapayapaan sa atin sa Mindanao. Dave, you're from Zamboanga City. You know now, after we passed the BOL at yung nagkaroon po tayo ng creation of the BARM law, the BOL law and the BARM as an institution, tumahimik na yung bakbakan dyan ng mga major armed groups at nagbigay po daan ng peace and development sa ating region. I'm very proud of that bilang isang taga Mindanao. Pangalawa, yung ease of doing business na anti-red tape, nadagdagan po ang ngipin dito sa ating mga government agencies sa delays ng kanilang pag-release ng mga certificates, licenses, and permits. I'm very proud of that dahil nagkaisa po kami sa MSMEs and of course businesses on paano natin mas-streamline itong mga releases of permits, licenses, and of course mga pangangailangan natin mga kababayan to be able to open up businesses. Ang pangatlo siguro yung cooperative code na nagbigay daan din po na mapagaan ang ating mga kooperatiba when it comes to regulatory framework of government. And we added incentives there which is now still protected under the law, yung tax exemptions, kaya dumadamit, lumalago at lumalakas ang ating kooperatiba sa iba't ibang parte ng ating bansa. And I'd say lastly is the renewable energy law. na nabigay daan sa pagpasok ng solar power, wind power, hydroelectric power sa buong bansa, which also started the movement of clean energy para sa, of course, combating climate change, malinis na enerhiya para sa ating kinabukasan.
Wrap up this forum tonight. Maraming salamat sa inyong mga sagot. We'll be giving you two more minutes to talk to the people and then present to you, rather to them, your priority legislation. Let's begin. Ladies first. Senator Risa, go ahead.
Salamat, Sir Dave. Nabanggit ko na nga po kanina na napakalapit sa puso ko lahat ng mga papel ko sa buhay at ito'y pinapersonal ko bilang anak man, bilang magulang at solo parent sa mga batas na isinusulong ko gaya ng ilang napag-usapan natin kanina. At talagang pinahalagahan ko rin yung mga pagkakataon na makatulong din ng mas kagyat at diretsyo tulad na lang halimbawa sa Healthy Pinas Mobile Clinic at yung mga relief operations tulad pagkatapos ng Typhoon Odette. Kaya matingkad po sa akin at sana lalo nating mapagkaisahan sa mga susunod na buwan at taon yung Healthy Buhay at Hanap Buhay campaign, lalo na post-pandemic, post-recession at patungo dyan sa new and better na health at saka economic normal. Tuloy-tuloy din po sana yung pagsusulong natin ng mga batas na alang-alang sa ating mga kababayan, iba't ibang sektor. Kasama na doon yung mga kooperatiba na pinamumunuan ni Migz bilang aming chair ng Senate Committee on Cooperatives at ako bilang kanyang vice chair. Siyempre, yung mga batas tungkol sa karapatan nating mga kababaihan, mga kabaro at ating mga pamilya. Pagpapatuloy din po sana sa fiscalizing na isang importanteng trabaho ng buong Senado, ng buong Kongreso sa ating Republika. Pagtataguyod ng karapatan at kagalingan ng iba't ibang batayang sektor, kasama na po ang mga mangingisda sa West Philippine Sea, yung lahat ng mga consumer sa usapin ng kuryente na pinamumunuan din ni Sen. Sherwin bilang aming chair ng Senate Committee on Energy at ako bilang isang aktibong miyembro nila. At syempre yung education initiatives, tinukoy din ni Sen. Sherwin bilang aming chair ng Senate Committee on Higher Education, lalo na sa mga hamon ngayon sa online at saka modular learning. And last but not the least, everybody stay healthy, no? Take care. Gumaling po tayo sa pandemic na ito.
Maraming salamat, Senator Risa. Senator Migz, 2 minutes, your priority legislation.
Maraming salamat, David. And of course, una sa lahat, mayroon po nag-text kanina, sinabi na tingnan po natin ang track record ng ating mga kandidato. Tama po yun. We should look at the track record of our candidates. Hindi naman sa pagyayabang, Dave, yung ating track record, 20 years of experience, wala po tayong issue corruption. Perfect attendance po tayo, Dave. I'm proud to say that since 1998, pagpasok ko sa Kongreso, up to this day, wala po akong absence sa Senado at sa Kongreso. And marami po tayong naipasa na batas, katulad ng binanggit ko kanina, yung ating Renewable Energy Act, yung Cooperative Code, yung ating Ease of Doing Business, yung Biofuels Law, yung strengthened anti-hazing law, yung Bayanihan 2, and many others no, na naipasa natin. At marami pa tayong gustong ipasa dahil baka magtataka ang taong bayan. Bakit ba gustong tumakbo muli ni Senator Zubiri kung medyo matagal na rin po siya naninilbihan bilang isang mababatas? Meron pa tayong post-pandemic response, mga kababayan. Kailangan pa natin ipasa ang Bayanihan 3 kung saan mabibigyan po natin at ang mga industriya na talagang natamaan itong pandemya ng panibagong pagkakataon o bagong buhay sa pagbibigay po ng ayuda sa itong mga industriya na ito, like the tourism industry, the hotel and restaurant industry, the micro, small and medium enterprises na talaga apektado dito sa pandemyang ito. Kailangan din natin ipasa ang Typhoon Odette Paglaong Fund. Alam mo, galing po ako sa 11 provinces and 7 cities kung saan natamaan po sila dahil sa Typhoon Odette, pinsala po sila at napagagrabe na kalamidad doon. Kailangan po natin ng dagdag budget para sa kanila. And we also have to strengthen our healthcare system, our hospitalizations. Kailangan dagdagan na may ekwipo niyan. We have to do it together, united as a people. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po ang ating bansa.
Maraming salamat, Senator Migz. And finally, Senator Win, your priority legislation, if given the chance to be re-elected.
Thank you, David. Ever since I went into public service, my advocacy is education. And I truly believe that education is the key to move our country forward, to lift our countrymen out of poverty, and to grow our economy. But the pandemic set us back. Malaking dagok po ang ginawa ng pandemya. Even prior to the pandemic, 9 out of 10 of our 10-year-old children cannot read. Hindi ho sila marunong magbasa. And this pandemic has worsened that. Inequality also among our learners has now increased because of the pandemic. So given a chance to go back, I will put education front, right, and center. It's important that we focus on education. It's important that we focus on our learners. It's important to close the gap between the rich and poor when it comes to education. And we will continue to pass education reform. We have passed several already, the alternative learning system law, the inclusive education law, the excellence in teacher education law, but we need more. It's important that we come up with education reforms to improve quality, to close the gap between the rich and poor, and make sure that we can withstand any type of pandemic and disruption in the education sector. So those are the legislation, and of course my focus and advocacy given a chance that I will be re-elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Senators Win Gatchalian, Risa Hontiveros, and Migz Zubiri. Daghang salamat. Maraming salamat. This has been a CNN Philippines special presentation, the first in a series of senatorial forums. I'm David Santos. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with another set of senatorial aspirants.